Hey everybody, Joe Vanourney, Cherry the Geek TV. We are here at San Diego Comic-Con 2025 with John McNamara, who is the executive producer and showrunner of the brand new NCIS Tony and Ziva, streaming September 4th on Paramount Plus. Set up this new series for us. Where do we find the characters of Tony and Ziva as this show begins?
In 2025, they are not a couple, and they're co-parenting their daughter, Tali, who was introduced in the original series. And then there's a kind of violent cyber attack on a business that Tony runs, a security company that he runs. And not only does it create a lot of questions about who did this and why, all of a sudden by the end of the episode they're framed for this terrible attack and for this theft of Interpol. And they have to go on the run. They have no choice but to go on the run with their daughter.
This show's a little different than the NCIS series that have come before it, right? The humor's still there, the character dynamics are still there, but it's set in Europe. There's a more there's a serialized element to it. Talk about taking these familiar characters and putting them not only in this new show, but kind of a brand new format.
Well, the format, I think, came out of two areas. One is the reality that streaming really allows and in fact encourages serialized storytelling, because of the way you kind of absorb it. You often don't have to wait every week. You do, but you can get the first 4 episodes in one night, and then that hopefully creates a sense of well, I've got to see what happens next week. But more to the creative, I just felt like I wanted to explore circumstances that would test, reveal, and put pressure on their relationship. And and maybe I'm just not a good enough writer, but I couldn't think of how to do that if they were getting the satisfaction of solving something every week. That would just create, in my mind, a sense of oh, no, we solved the case, let's kiss. As opposed to things get worse and worse and worse and worse, and all of a sudden they're saying things to each other that are hurtful or romantic. I mean, they're in circumstances where they have to really reveal their true selves because they could die at any moment. They could lose their daughter. So a lot of the social niceties of co-parenting a daughter in Paris and living a happy life are ripped away. And that's why I also feel strongly about I love stories about characters on the run, characters who are falsely accused. It's one of the things I loved about the movie Superman. I thought that James Gunn did an incredible job of, by the middle of that movie, I'm like, how is Superman going to get out of this? This is fucked up. And I really felt that with Tony and Ziva. I wanted to explore the characters, and that format of serialized storytelling allowed me to do that.
While I got you here, I'm going to be honest with you, you're one of my favorite showrunners. I've said this for 20 years. I say who the most underrated writer, executive producer, showrunner is John McNamara. You've created some fantastic shows. You've written some great shows on Briscoe County Jr., Lois and Clark, but you've also created some fantastic shows. Fastlane, The Fugitive. I want to ask you about two...
What do they all have in common?
People on the run.
They all were one season.
Oh, yeah, that's true, but that's not a statement of the quality of the shows, because the shows are all fantastic. I want to ask you about two...
Statement of my bank account.
I want to ask you about two of them in particular. Yeah. The first one is Prophet. Yeah. 1996, Adrian Pasdar is Jim Prophet. The first probably anti-hero main character on television. This is before Tony Soprano. This is before Walter White. As you said, one season show. Do you think in this new era, streaming era, and now that audiences are used to this anti-hero character, do you think if Prophet came out in 2025 that it would be better received?
I actually was asked this question a couple years ago here, and my feeling was the anti-hero has been now so deeply explored by such good writers and actors, and they've gone to places that I would never have thought of going to with Prophet, that he would seem almost quaint today. Oh, he killed his boss for a raise. Who doesn't do that, So I think that it was maybe 5 years ahead of its time. I think the audience, particularly on Fox at that time, was not ready to watch Melrose Place and then watch Prophet. So I sort of feel look, it was incredibly fun to do. And Steve Cannell, who was my boss and mentor and really helped get the show greenlit, he really sunk his teeth into having written heroes for 40 years. He said, it is so fun to write a villain who's the center of the thing. I'm like, yeah, Richard III was probably a lot of fun for Shakespeare to write, So do I think that Prophet itself could be translated? I don't, sadly. I don't. And I'd love to bring that show back because I love the cast. I love my fellow writers, my co-creator, David Greenwalt. But I do think that what we have now is a world in which, and Prophet is a tiny part of this. We live in a world in which we can have characters do or be anything. They don't have to be cops. And if they are cops, they can be really bad cops or really good cops. So that part, I think, keeps me excited and keeps me thinking and keeps me trying to come up with new ideas. That it's not, when I entered television, there was like doctors, cops, occasional superhero, occasional bounty hunter. That was it.
The other show I wanted to ask you about was Vengeance Unlimited, starring Michael Madsen, who sadly passed away just a few weeks ago.
Good guy.
Talk about creating that show, working with Michael Madsen. What are your memories of this?
Well, weirdly, that show started with a conversation with an executive at ABC who loved Prophet, which had just been canceled. And he called me up and he said, "Is there a way to have a character do all the terrible, awful, wonderful things Prophet does, but he's doing them for good?" And I said, well, yeah, he'd be a vigilante. He'd be a vigilante who'd come into your life and you have a problem, he'd solve it. And he'd use very, very, very unusual methods, like stealing bodies from a morgue to frame the bad guy for murder. So they were very excited about that show, and getting Michael was a coup. He'd never done TV. And he was just a wonderful, both Adrian and Michael were wonderful to work with. I really miss Michael a lot. I really do.
Awesome. Well, if these shows haven't convinced you to watch NCIS Tony and Ziva, I don't know what will. It's John McNamara, folks. NCIS Tony and Ziva premiering on September 4th on Paramount Plus. John, thanks for chatting with us.
Good to see you.
And stay tuned to Cherry the Geek TV for more coverage here at San Diego Comic-Con.
All right.